In this video, I shall start showing you how to actually use the Joomla content management system to edit your website. Here, what you're seeing here at the moment is the login of the backend. In fact, up here you can see the URL as I explained in the other video is your domain name followed by /administrator. This last bit here that comes on its own, you don't have to bother about it. In my case, it is the login and password are saved, so I can just click on login. Now, it's usually a good idea that when you're working on updating your website, you have your website open in another window, so that every time that you change something, you can just click Alt-Tab on your keyboard and get from the back end to the front end, so that you can see your changes. As I explained in the other video, this is the sort of welcome page, which is also the control panel. Here you've got notice about updates, but the developer will usually take care of those. And here you've got as well some statistics showing you what's been added recently and the number of times that articles have been viewed. Bear in mind that Joomla is a multi-user system, which means that you can have a number of users working on it at the same time. And it handles versioning on its own. I'll explain later what this is about. But basically, in what you're looking at the moment, this little thing here, that padlock, means that this article, this piece of content is currently locked. Now, first thing you have to know is you familiarize yourself with these menus here at the top, because those are the menus through which you can edit your page. Now, first of all, the most important thing that you can edit is your content. Now, as I explained a bit in the other video, in the first video, the website is made up of a lot of things. For example, here you can see the front page. There's a number of modules and the number of articles or content. Here, in this case, the menu is a module, the social media icons here is another, the logo is another, and so is the slideshow. Further down, these are all different modules. Again here, in fact, this page, in this case, this design of this particular website doesn't actually have any content on the front page. But if you had to go to a particular page, like About Us, for example, now in this case here, you have content. That is the actual article, the content. And in this case, the website has a right column. And here you can see a module which is placed in the right column. I'll explain later about how to create modules and to place them wherever you want them to appear. So, to start off, let's look at the content. Now, if you click on this menu here, you see a number of items. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to go through the important ones. Now, first of all, the most important is articles. And here you can add a new one, or you can simply click on articles, and you will be taken to your list of articles. Now, each article here, for example, this is an article called Professional Presentation Skills, has an alias. An alias is a sort of nickname. In this case, in most Joomla websites, it will also mean that this will appear in the URL, in the link. The author, whether the access is public or not, because you can even have a section of your website which is only available to registered users. The language, because you can also have multiple languages, the date that this article was created, the number of hits, the number of times it was viewed, and the article ID, which is created automatically for you by the content management system. Again, here you see the padlocks. That means that those articles are locked. In fact, they're locked by me. And if you click on any of these, you will get them sorted by whatever you click on. This little green arrow here, that means that the article is in fact published, and this star means that it featured. In this particular website, this will not do anything, but if it was a news website, for example, I could have designed a template so that when you choose that the article is featured, it appears in some highlighted way, bigger text, graphics, whatever, different color, that sort of thing. In this particular example, it would do nothing. You also have a number of search tools, and you can select by, for example, whether an article is published, the category of the article, etc., the author, etc. Obviously, in a page of this size, where there aren't that many articles, you might not need to use these selectors. However, in a page which contains thousands of articles, they will be very handy. And obviously, you can even use the search feature here. You type in part of the name, and it will find the rest for you. For example, if I had to type in skill, I will see the only 2 articles that have the word skill in their name. Now, when you click on an article, you will see the editing screen. Now, again, here you've got quite a lot of controls. You have all these here. You have the title. You have, again, an alias, a nickname. This is done automatically. You simply type the title, and when you save it, Joomla will create it for you. Here you've got whether the article is published or not, a category. I will explain about categories shortly, whether it's featured or not, the access, which are exactly what we saw in the list earlier. And here, this is the actual content. Now, these controls here are very similar to word processor controls, such as Microsoft Word, and basically, you can use them to do a lot of the document formatting. Now, since we are working on web, you have to bear in mind that what the system is doing is actually creating this code for you. As you can see here, there are special things like, for example, P and these symbols. This is, for example, a list. This is being done for you automatically. So you have to appreciate this. I will explain why, but it's important that you know what's happening. Now, when you will probably need to paste documents from Word. When you do that, don't just paste them into the space here. But if you want to paste, select where you want the content to be pasted, click on this little clipboard with a T here, paste your Word document here, the document, the text will come into the window, and then use the controls here to edit the text, to make it bold, italics, whatever, rather than pasting it directly from Word already formatted. The reason behind this is that Word produces a lot of hidden codes, which if you just simply paste, these will be pasted into the document, and although on your computer it might look fine, on other devices it might not. So it's a general rule that you should always paste as plain text and then use here to format. Now, most of the controls will be familiar to you, like, for example, bold, italics, underline, strikeout. Here you've got justification, left, right, and full justification, and different color text, font sizes, etc. Those are probably pretty familiar. But then you've got styles. For example, this is something you should use. Now, for example, in this website, I have created as a developer these styles. It's important that, for example, when you're going to have a subheading, you choose subheading. So basically, you would highlight the text. In fact, see, it's already a subheading, and choose what you want it to be. For example, if you wanted a heading, that will become a heading. The idea is that this style is homogeneous throughout the entire website, and not in some places, different sizes or different colors or different styles in general. There's also an important thing with bulleted lists. For example, here you're seeing a bulleted list. Now, when you type a bulleted list, I'll show you an example. For example, this is the first line. What you do is you click here and you got your bulleted list, and you continue. When you're done, you just press an extra enter, and that's your bulleted list. Don't try to create a bulleted list by using spaces and that sort of thing, because spaces don't work very well on web. Another important thing to know about web is that there are two types of pressing the enter key. The first one is, for example, I type something, pressed enter, and type something, and then pressed enter. You'll see that there is a blank line, a fresh line between these two entries. If you don't want that line, instead of pressing enter, you press shift enter, and now it comes exactly under. That's something important to know, because if you don't know it, it will be quite a headache to try and get things organized. There's also ordered lists, which are like bulleted lists, but with numbers. And another important thing is, which is obviously for the internet, we're working on the internet, so it's very important, is how to add hyperlinks. Now, let's say I wanted, let's say I typed contact us here, for example. Now if I do that and I wanted to link the here to the contact page, I would just select what I want to link, press the chain, and you get this pop-up here, and basically you have to type the URL here, and that's a link. But since Joomla knows that most likely you are going to be using links which are in the page besides external links, you can link directly to an item. Now it's always a good idea, rather than linking to the content directly, like here for example, you use the menu. And the reason behind this is that if something changes, the menu will automatically carry forward the change. Now, for example, if I wanted to add a link to contact us, I would simply click here and it's created the link for me. It could have been a link which I pasted from the website. It works just as well. And as well, you have to choose a target. Now, if we're talking about a link to our own page, obviously we don't mind that the user stays on the same page because it is our page. But if we're linking to an external page, we would use open in a new window, so that when the user clicks on that link opens in a new window. Now, in our case, since a contact page will open in the current window. There are also some other things. For example, if you wanted to make a link that links to sending an email rather than content, you would click here to send an email. There's also some advanced styling here, which we don't really need to get into. And you can also create a pop-up if you like, a Windows pop-up. Here you put in the dimensions. Again, most likely you won't need to use this much. So I'm going to insert this, and as you can see now, the word here has a blue line. It's blue and it has a line under it showing you that it's a link. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to professional presentation skills here so that you can see it in action. And this is what we just added, contact us here. And if I click, I should go to the contact page. So that's how you make a link. I'm going to remove it again and save. If it was a link to Google, for example, I would select the word Google, click on the chain. Here I would type http://www.google.com, and I would choose open in a new window and save, insert, and then save, and that would be a link to Google in a separate tab. Now, so that's how you link. If you wanted to insert an image, which again is something you would normally need to do, you can do it in several ways. Now, first of all, Joomla, to make your life easy, has this system here called images and links. Now, if you use this, it's simpler than adding an image through the content page because the image is already formatted for you by the system, by the template that I have created. Now, if you had to use this, basically you just do select. Here you get, this is what is on your web server where your website is hosted. You've got a link, a list of different images, and some of them are organized in folders as well. Or you can upload your own. You simply click on upload, browse, and drop the file, and the file will come like one of these. For example, if I chose that, that's a link to retail, and if I had to insert it, now that will appear as, let me show you in the page, that would appear like, for example, like this one. It depends where you put it. Now I'll show you. Like here, for example, the intro image retail PNG, this would be the same as this. In this case, it is but aligned to the text, to the right rather than to the left, because as you can see, it's on the right with the text flowing to the left of it. If you just put an intro image, why is there an intro and a full article image? There's a good reason for that. The intro image will appear if a page has read more, like for example, this page includes a read more here, read more white rain. So in that case, the image, the second image, this one, would appear in the read more, in the page. In this case, it would appear here, for example, like this article has this image as the main full article image. Whereas the intro image only appears in the intro. You can also add links to the images, and you can also target the link to wherever you like, as we did before. There's other options. Now these would be set by default. I would have set them for you. However, you can change some things. For example, I can show you, like for example, in this article here, usually in all articles, the author is switched off. Okay, but in this case, it is not. It is switched on. Let me go to the article. Now that was White Rain. Here it is. And you will see that this article in the options has White Rain. The White Rain article has show author as set as show, so that I purposely wanted to show the article. There's a lot of other things here that you can switch on, like the creation date, the modification date, publishing date, etc. There's also a publishing section for each article, and here you've got when you want to start publishing the article and when it was created and by who. Now, obviously, if you're logged in as you, your name will automatically be linked to that article. And as well, the start and creation date are automatically, by default, set to be today. Now, if you decide that you want to publish an article in the future, like for example, you wanted to add a Merry Christmas page, you could prepare the page before and have it published on beginning of December, for example. There's also a place where you can add meta description and meta keywords. These are keywords which are referenced by search engines. Now, obviously, the content itself is as well referenced, so it's useless putting the same words that's in the content because the search engines will find it anyway. What you can do here, if you want to be a bit creative, is perhaps create a description and keywords in other languages, that your clients might potentially use, and so you've got the best of both worlds. You've got your content in English and the description keywords in Italian, for example. These two you don't really need to bother about much. Let's go back to the content, and here's how. Now, what's this gray line over here? That's actually a read more line. In fact, in this article, if we go back to the blog section, you can see that White Rain article has the read more. You can do that simply by placing the mouse where you want to read more and clicking on the read more button. In this case, there's already a read more link, so we can't do another one, but basically that is exactly how I created it. And that will automatically break the page. At that point, insert the read more link and create the link to the full page, which will be shown when you click on it. So basically, it does a lot of the work for you. Another thing about images is, besides using these here, like I said before, there's also a way where you can insert an image where you like. All you simply do is, again, click there, click on the image. Again, you're shown the folders in your web server, and each of these folders contains images. You can either upload, select your image, drag and drop, and it will come in this list, or simply choose one which is right there. For example, I'm choosing this image here, and automatically everything is done for me here, including the dimensions for the image. Now, here a word of caution. You should not have images larger than 100K. You have to remember that we're talking on a web server here, we're using a web server, which means that space might not be that limited, but speed is of paramount importance. So if you are going to display an image at 800 by 600 pixels, don't upload one at 5,000 pixels, because although the system, if you reduce it in the content manager here, if you reduce the size manually, if you reduce it, it will actually still be loading the big picture and using up resources and making your website slow. So it's important to keep your images around the size that you need them. Like, for example, in an article, you're very likely not to put an image which is like in this one, 600 pixels. So instead of doing this, and you change the number here, ideally you would reduce it on your computer and upload it to the original size. In this case, this image was important, but this is a rule which you should keep. You can even select margins and also alignment. You could, if you don't select alignment, the text will come under the image as it's showing you here. If you do, for example, I wanted left aligned, see now the text is going around the image. But obviously, if the image has a border, it's going to come right next to it. So in that case, I would put, for example, right margin of 10 pixels, for example. You see, and here it moved it 10 pixels. I click on insert the image, and my image is now aligned to the left with the text flowing around it. As I said, I can also do this and reduce the size of the image, but keep this to a bare minimum. I mean, the little reduction I've made here is not going to make a huge difference, but don't upload a stock Shutterstock image and then reduce it here, because you will slow down your website by a great degree. So that's how you insert an image. If you wanted to link the image, you'd use exactly the same way as we linked it before. Simply select the image, click on the chain. Again, you get the description here, the content, menus, and everything. Either link to the same site, to your own site, or simply type in the URL here. Once you save, that image will be linked. So if the user clicks, he will be taken to whatever link you used. Another important thing which you might use is tables. Now, why would you use tables? Tables are exactly what they mean, like if you have tabulated data. Now, if you try and create tabulated data with spaces here, you will make a mess of it and waste a lot of time and not manage, because in the web, like I explained before, spaces are not a good thing to use them a lot next to each other. One here and there, okay, but don't try to make space with spaces. If you wanted to make a table, you simply click here, choose how many columns and rows that you need. Let's make one, for example, with 4 columns, and the table is created for you. And then you can put content automatically, like so. The table also has properties. I right-clicked here, and I've got table properties, cell properties, one by one. Basically, this is the same as Microsoft Word tables. If you're used to Microsoft Word tables, you'd be quite familiar with tables. It's important that you do them like this, because it's the only way that can guarantee that the data will appear properly on your website. So, once you save the article, all the changes obviously will be saved and will appear in the live version. Now, another thing which you might need to do often might be that you're creating a number of articles. So in that case, you could save as copy and maybe change a few things, and your article is ready when you save as copy. It will basically just create a copy of the article you're working on, but with a different name. There's also versions. Versions are kept as well by Joomla. These are versions of the document, how many times it was edited. And you can go back, if you make a mistake or something, you can go back to an older version which you were using before. It's a sort of undo which is built in. Another thing which I haven't mentioned, I'm going to close this one, is categories. So the content here, under the content menu, you also have categories. Now if I go to categories in this particular site, I've got these 4 categories. One is called uncategorized. This is basically a category which is created by Joomla by default. And these are categories which I have created to split the data into sections. It's not just a question of being organized, now I'll explain, but it's important, especially if the site has a lot of pages, to group them. Like for example, in this case, courses are in one category, blog is in another. Another reason why you can create as many as you like, obviously, of these. Another reason why it's important to have categories is that, for example, in this particular site, and in many sites this would be the same, the blog page, here, if I click on blog, these articles, in this case there are at the moment still just 2, okay, will appear because you added them to the same category. So in this particular site, if I had to create an article, and in the article I choose the category blog, and I type, and I whatever, copy, paste, add images, etc. Once I save it, this will appear under the other articles, and keep going like that. There is a place where you can set how many articles appear, etc., etc. But at this stage, we don't need to get into that. It's enough to know that you can simply just create an article, include it in the blog, and it will be automatically displayed. Besides this fact, there's also the idea that you can organize content even for you to be able to manage it properly. Under content as well, there's also the media section. Now, you saw me show you how to upload images and place them in your articles. Here is where you can organize them and work with them. Now, obviously, once you linked an item of media, a piece of media to your article, you shouldn't mess around with it after you've placed it in the article. But if you still haven't, you can, for example, if you're going to upload a number of pictures, rather than uploading them one by one in the article editing page, you would here simply press upload, and you can choose files, select more than one file, okay, and upload them all together, or create a folder and then upload them in a folder. That's the idea. And this will save you time. Here you've got a restriction of 2 megabytes per file, which you should, like I explained before, with a 100K file you will never go over, and you can sort of keep your data more organized as well. Here you can see at the moment the different folders, as well as other images and site furniture which I have uploaded to create this particular website. That's all for this video. We'll get into more detail in the next one.